Hello and welcome to That British Homestead. Today I'm going to tell you about another mistake that I've done. It feels like this year all I've done is make mistakes. But what can you do? So this mistake is like, like when hindsight is 2020, right? And you're thinking, well, of course that was going to happen. How could I be so stupid? It's one of those. And now I'm like looking back, I just can't understand what I was thinking. And of course it was a really bad idea, and I'd never make this mistake again because I'm not an idiot. But I thought I'd tell you about it because it's really embarrassing. So this is a massive, incredibly smelly bolt of garlic. I think I got about 160 garlics, didn't I, this year, and they were awesome. They're really big, really lovely, and I left them to cure in the greenhouse. Comment down below if you think you know what I did wrong. So put them in the greenhouse. I was like, yeah, the greenhouse is nice and dry, the greenhouse is great, the greenhouse is a nice dry place for them to dry off. So what I've basically done is I've cooked these onions and garlic in the greenhouse using solar power because it gets so hot in the greenhouse, which is a pain. So what I'm doing, like absolute Hercules, is I'm going to basically go through them now and get rid of any of them that are revolting. So positive, not all of them are ruined. Negative, some of them are. Positive, I won't ever do that again because it was silly. So I'm just going to show you. Knife. So as you can see, I don't know if you can see that there is completely, utterly just cooked, basically. But that one's fine. Look at that lovely garlic. That one's fine, and you see it's a nice colour. The rest are cooked. Now, I'm afraid that most of them are like that, so what I'm going to go through is kind of give them the squish test, and if they are not squishy, I'm going to save them. If they are squishy, then they're going to go in the bin, because I don't like, for example, the squish test. Where do you store your garlic to cure? I normally do it in the garage, but I was like, because we used to have his and hers garages, and we decided to knock down my garage because of the room in the garden, and then combine our garages. His garage, as you know, is huge. And because of that, I was like, I don't really want to take up all the room. Perhaps it's a better idea to sort of nice. It's not too bad. It does stink though. No, that's not too bad. See, actually, they're not too bad. This one is gone a little bit grim though, so it's that. It smells like socks. I don't know why. So what I was going to say is about garlic and onions. Is I really like garlic and onions. It's one of my favourite harvests of all time, and it's just so sad that I've lost so many of them this year. You can just see that's just grim, and it kind of is my fault, and it is what it is. And like I said, hindsight, I can't understand why I left them in the greenhouse so long, because of course they're going to cook. It makes obvious sense now that I'm thinking about it, but at the time I was just like, oh, they're curing, they're great. Man, that's a beautiful garlic. So yeah, I wish I had smell-o-vision so I could really demonstrate you what they smell like, but I mean, But any of the cloves that are okay, I'm going to try to keep. Like, that's a fine clove. Obviously, that one just didn't want to be with me. Obviously, over time, I'm going to keep checking these. I don't think these are going to store very well at all. And even some of the onions. Do you know, this kind of reminds me last year. Oh God, this is so foul. Last year, what did I do last year? Oh, the inside's fine though. Oh, it's grim. The smell. I'm so glad that I'm not living off of what I grow at the moment. Some of them are only destroyed on one side, which is quite nice. Well, it's not. It'd be nice if they weren't destroyed on any side. But I do eat a lot of garlic, so these ones that aren't too bad, that I'm putting in this pile, are the ones I'm going to eat first. These ones are soft, just go in there, and basically what they've done is cooked. And it is what it is. I'm not even going to be sad about it. I always try to look at the silver lining, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, you're like, wow, this person is so good at finding silver linings, because I continuously mess up. But it's one of those things. I'll never make this mistake again. It was a really silly mistake to start off with. I don't know why. I was just like, yeah, this is such a good idea. And then it just wasn't, but is what it is. Some of these are going quite mouldy. Oh, I hope I can save some of them. But if not, I can always just store them in honey or whatever. Let's go for one more papery layer. I might cure these again as well. Dry them out a little bit. Because I think as they have been sat together, because I collected them all and then they sat for a little while, I think that they need to be cured again, basically. What a palaver. I'm hoping that some of them are going to be okay though, because this is going to be my seed garlic as well for next year. Onions. The onions seem to have been okay. I think I've got rid of most of the soft onions. When I was sorting through them, I was gutted. I was literally like floored when I realised what happened. But what can you do? There's only so much you can do, you know. There's definitely some moisture that's got into there as well. I'm telling you, I will never, ever, ever store them like this again, because it was just such a mistake. Some of them are fine, look, that's what I was expecting them to come out like, but I think it's the direct sunshine that did it. I think it just got too hot in there, and I think the top layer just cooked like this. I'll show you. Oh, that's grim. Whatever. They feel like old garlic, you know, like when you bought garlic and you've forgotten about it, it starts to dry. Sun-dried garlic. I'm just gonna go to my happy place, cut some of the roots off. There you go, that's a fine looking garlic. And then what I'll do is once they have been like gone through and I decide which ones are like worth keeping, I'll then go through again and pick out the best of the best, and the best of the best will be kept for seed garlic. And then I'll take the small ones, the ones that you think, was that worth going? I'll keep those for general eating purposes. So that's how I tend to do it, and I keep the best every year. That's why it's so disappointing that I've messed up the garlic, because it's not just my garlic for this year, it's my garlic for next year, you know. And I've been keeping the same garlic for like 8 years now, something like that, and there's nothing wrong with the garlic seed, it's just me not storing it correctly. So some people do plait garlic. I have plaited garlic in the past. It's quite a long process. I now just keep them in like it's a potato. I keep them in just bats now, like big boxes, and just they're fine. Mice don't really like garlic or onions, so it's not really an issue storing them in the garage. I've never had any rodent issues with our garlic, our onions, or our squashes. Really, they're not very popular with the rodents. I do keep traps out there as well, and humane ones and everything, and relocate them, etc. If they do end up finding their way into the garage. I also do deep cleans, which helps. But I will separate them into garlic and onions, because I know it sounds really silly. But if I ask my partner to get an onion, he'll get confused and bring me a garlic. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. Let's see what this onion looks like on the inside. Oof. It's curiosity, isn't it? So this is an example of one. Just cut the roots off. This is an example of one that I'll keep for eating. Do you see how tiny it is? And I will be like having to do that. Whereas, for example, this would be a good example of what I would keep if it isn't soft. There's a soft part there. So this is an elephant garlic, so it is a small elephant garlic. But I'm going to go ahead and look to see if it's okay in the inside. I think I just need to get rid of that one there. I think that one as well can go, and the rest is fine. I'll keep that for fresh eating, as I've already opened it. This is a not bad one for seed. You can see how big that clove is. This would be a contender if I don't have any better ones. I like to take as many layers off the onions as possible, so you can really see what's going on when you go down there, because if they're slightly soft, I like to make sure that they aren't staying in the store, because they can send all your other produce there off. This one has a slight soft patch, so that one's going to stay for fresh eating. We eat a lot of onions and garlic. It's canning season, so it's not like this will be gone. What I have on the table will probably be canned by next week. It is canning season. Another onion. I have taken off all of the what are they called? The greens off of this. I took them off to take them home, just because I don't really need that extra rubbish, and I'll just go ahead and put those. Actually, do you know what I did with them? I use them as a fire starter. There you go. So this one has a soft patch in it. It's probably going to be grim. It is very, very grim. But it's all the way through. And that's because I've cooked it and it smells grim. This one has got soft patch on it again. Do you know, the biggest issue isn't that I've lost garlic, to be fair. It's because I've lost all that time and all that effort in in the garlics themselves. Like, I've put in so much time and effort into them. That's the issue. I wish you could smell the smells that I'm getting. Goodness gracious me. These are elephant garlics. These elephant garlics didn't divide, and the reason why they didn't divide is because they were grown by corns. Corns are very small little bits of elephant garlic that grow around the outside. I just rebury those every year, and if you left them in, they'd grow to about this size, but I chose not to. So that means that they are fine for this year. They don't store amazingly, so I tend to use those first. I like elephant garlic because it's quite a mild flavour, and you can add more garlic in than if you were using actual garlic, and I really love it. I love the texture and the taste and everything of garlic, so it's something that I quite enjoy. I still have some onions in the allotment that need to be harvested. That was a pretty decent onion, isn't it? These are Spanish onions, which makes them very small Spanish onions, but they're quite sweet. Good for storing. Oof. Right. That's completely ruined, but we do have some corns at the top, so we'll keep those and throw that one away because it's squishy. This one here is another bulb, single bulb, no division there of the elephant garlic. Like I said, it doesn't really bother me if I get these or I get the bulbs, because like I said, this time of year we're doing tons and tons of canning, so that's perfect for that. This one has gone disgusting, I can just feel. Oh, look at that little bulb, it's so cute. It didn't divide. That's rubbish. Tiny little onion. When I go down there, I have a little pot for small onions, and I use those for pickled onions, so they will not go to waste. Another one for pickled onions. I did do shallots this year. What do you think about shallots? Do you think they're worth doing, or do you think that they're a waste? I'm like on the fence about them. I like the fact that they get you, like, you plant one onion and you get loads more. I like that, but I don't know, I just don't like the fact that they're quite small, aren't they? That's not a bad size, is it? I think I definitely will cure these once more, just to make sure that they are completely, utterly dried before moving on. You're probably just thinking, I'll just throw them all away, but I refuse to lose all my garlic. Although I'm losing quite a few of them. I mean, oh, look at this one. This is the sort of one that I told you that I'm going to keep. Look how pathetically small that is. So I'll keep that one. There's no way I'm regrowing that. That is not the sort of garlic that we want. This one too is way too small. And it's because last year I kind of got a bit desperate when it came to growing my garlic, because I used a load of it as seed garlic, and basically I planted ones that I don't normally plant. See, that's one that I would use because it's such a tiny one, but it's perfectly formed. This is another bulb. I have to say, I quite liked growing them in the horse manure this year. I think that that is the new go-to move. Even my partner was like, they do look more healthy when I showed him them growing in the root stout method or the horse manure. Onions grew really well in the horse manure as well. These are like, I know that they aren't the most amazing onions, but they're pretty decent for us. We don't normally get them this size. So I think that's a pretty decent, like all of them pretty much have been pretty decent sized onions. So I'm quite happy with that. The bowl balls, it's very hard to say, the bowl balls have pretty much all come through not scathed. I think it might be because they're so small they've fallen to the bottom, whereas this one's fine. The garlics themselves, let's see how well that's done. I'm going to keep, no, it's fail. There's also ones like this, not worth keeping. They will not keep. That is fine. Yes, it is tiny. Is it one that I'm going to keep? The seed? No, it's actually only 2 garlic bulbs that come through. They're quite big ones, but we don't want ones that produce so little. That one's squishy. Oh, this one's going to be foul. I think that growing your own vegetables does make you have quite a strong stomach for things like this. Oh, that's grim. That lucky dip, isn't it? Oh, I'm getting potatoes. I didn't even know there was potatoes in there. This probably explains why some of them have gone squishy, because potatoes produce a lot of moisture when they're curing. And this just represents why when you get home from the allotment you go through your stuff straight away, which I am the queen of not doing, by the way. I actually don't think it's that bad. Maybe it's because I'm halfway through. That's a decent sized one, but I'm going to cure that again. I can feel that there's moisture in it. Not a bad size again, not bad for fresh eating. There is a squishy one there, so I'm going to keep that for fresh. Just going to remove some of this outer leaves. I really like to see what's going on in an onion. That was fine. There's a little bit of a soft spot there, so I'm not going to let that one cure. And it's just going through them like this. I know it is absolutely riveting, but I like things like this that are easy to store, because I mean, look at the effort I'm putting into this. It's not very much at all, not compared to like, say, strawberries or any berries. I make that into jam. That's like standing over a hot cooker in the blasting heat. That's, you know, a whole host of things that I have to do, whereas this is just so easy in comparison. I'm doing it, but I don't normally put this much effort into my onions and my garlics. I normally just cure them and then go ahead and stick them in a, I was going to say trolley, into a pot and leave them. I think this one's fine. I just need to trim the bottom. Once again, this is okay. It doesn't need to be re-cured. I just feel like most of them are quite squishy. I don't know. Maybe it's me being paranoid. This is a decent sized one, but it just feels very moist. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I cure them. I'm just going to put them all out and let them dry, I think. Lots of them are quite squishy. But if they can't be cured and they can't store, then they'll be lost over the year. So they will not be able to be used as seed next year. I feel very garlic rich at the moment. You know, you kind of get into your head about this sort of stuff, and I know that I lost a load of garlics last year and I was absolutely gutted, but you just can't get into your head about stuff, because then you'll be like, all right, I don't want to do this anymore. And it is what it is. I don't like being negative. I just personally think it's nice to look on the bright side. So instead of being like, oh, I have some small garlics, I think, oh, that one's a good one for eating and cooking at home. Whereas if they're like a pretty decent size, then I'm like, oh, brilliant, a seed garlic. And I do want to do about 160, maybe a little bit more next year. That's a pretty decent sized one. Each one of these garlics are different varieties. So like one, I might be like, oh, that's a good one for one. And the other one, if it was like a purple variety, I'd be like, oh, that's a really rubbish size. So it does depend on the varieties you use. I do prefer a larger garlic. I prefer large bulbs of garlic on the basis that it's nicer when I'm cooking. I use a lot of garlic when I'm cooking. I probably use way more than you need. Apparently it's really good for you though. And I cook with it pretty much every meal. So, and I even put garlic powder on my garlic. I love garlic that much. So it is important for me to have loads of garlics. And you know what? I actually thought I lost most of these, and it turns out, you see when there's a little slash on them, this is just me digging them up poorly. I keep that for fresh eating as well. But yeah, what I was gonna say, so yeah, I did think I lost a lot more than what you can see here. So I was a little bit worried, and I think I was a little bit worried prematurely. Well, I say that, I'm only halfway through, so maybe I'm not. Sorted through all my garlics and onions, and these are the ones that are in good condition to store. I am going to go ahead and spread these out over the garage side and make sure they're super dry. I want them to be bone dry so that there's no mold or any issues like that. I haven't seen any issues on these, but I just want to be like super safe. I have lost more than I wanted to, but I also have a load of garlic and onions around here that are not good enough to be stored, but there's nothing wrong with them, so I'm going to go ahead and use those first. I'm always happy to have so many garlic and onions in the store. I'm probably going to try to keep most of these for seed for next year, on the basis that the ones that I have in front here, it's just so many that I don't really need to worry about these ones. I would like to have gone into the winter with a little bit more, but I do have some still curing in the garden, in the garage from the garden, so I'm not 100% worried about it. But as I'm going through here, one thing I did find, and it is a silver lining, we have a bug that really affects garlic and onions, and I haven't seen any traces of that this year. It's like a little miner that gets in between the skin and moves its way down through the garlic and overwinters really well in garlic. So that's really, really good that I haven't seen any of those, because last year they were absolutely riddled. So that is a really good sign. So I always try to look at the silver lining on everything, even when it looks a little bit, you know, rubbish. I do try to see in a good light. I'd say good onion year this year. I'm really impressed with the size of some of these onions. They are huge, and I'm really excited about having those for the winter months. Now these ones are going to go into our long-term storage. I try to store the ones without any blemishes on. Same with the garlic, without any blemishes, and I'm really excited about that as well. This one's a very good garlic, and I'm going to be excited about having that one as a seed garlic. Like I said, most of these, apart from like the really little ones, are going to be kept for seed garlic for next year, because there's not very many of them. So it's really important that I go ahead and keep these as a seed for next year, so that it's keeping the cost of the garden down, but more importantly, it is also making sure that I'm keeping the best stock each year. Now I had to throw away some of my really good garlics, which I'm gutted about, but it is what it is. Every year you make mistakes, and every year you learn a little bit from them. So I'm going to follow my own advice and get these sorted now, so that nothing bad happens to them, because I'm going to safeguard them for next year. Thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't done already, please consider subscribing, because we could do a lot of things here apart from grow without you, and obviously store garlic correctly. And I hope that you have a lovely day. I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Hello and welcome to That British Homestead. Let there be light. Hello and welcome to That British Homestead. Today, Bailey's going to walk in the background and make a lot of noise, which is very convenient